Welcome to the Research Culture Uncovered podcast, where in every episode we explore what is research culture and what should it be. You'll hear thoughts and opinions from a range of contributors to help you change research culture into what you want it to be.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Research Culture Uncovered podcast. My name is Jed Hall and I'm the Research and Development Team Leader at the University of Leeds. My research and development specialism is research impact, covering development of individuals, researchers and research impact professionals, and also the organisational development aspects of that. So all of my episodes for the podcast focus in some way on research impact, and they're all available via a playlist which is in the show notes. Now today I'm joined by Dr. Vicky Ward. Now Vicky is currently a reader in management at the Department of Management, and she's also the Director of Impact and Innovation for the University of St Andrews Business School. But before joining St Andrews in 2018, she worked at Leeds, which is where I know her from, for nearly 12 years, latterly as an Associate Professor in Knowledge Mobilisation. Now, I joined Leeds in 2011, and her work on knowledge mobilisation, in collaboration with other colleagues in the Leeds Institute of Health Sciences, provided a really strong underpinning theory for the practice I was going to try and create in the first sessions I delivered to try and help researchers understand what research impact is and how to engage with it. So I'm really grateful for that, Vicky. It was I love reading those papers when I first arrived at Leeds, and then getting to know you after reading them. So that was brilliant. Vicky is also the chair of the UK Knowledge Mobilisation Forum, which is an annual event for knowledge mobilisation researchers and practitioners, which is going to be the focus of this episode. So Vicky, welcome to the Research Culture Uncovered podcast.
Hi, Jed. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. And it's so great to hear that you once read some of my research papers. That's brilliant.
Yes, I have. And I've used them actually in a lot of sessions, actually. There was a table that you did, a brilliant table in one of those papers, where it was actually a series of questions across the life cycle of research to kind of prompt thinking around that. And I used to use that in some group work that I used to put participants through. So it was a fantastic resource. So I hope you've got that in your kind of impact file.
Absolutely. Yes, I do. And it's quite rare, actually, to have people who read academic work. We know that not a lot of people do that, which is why I'm actually in the space that I'm in. But it is good to hear that some of mine is being read and used as well. And that's actually what I'm really interested in, passionate about.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it'd be a bit embarrassing if those working within the sector didn't read some literature, really, wouldn't it? Now, Vicky, before we get on to chat about the forum and its history and its future, I'd like to understand your career journey a little bit, because this is something I didn't know. I mean, I've known you for years, but I didn't know your PhD was in music. So I'm kind of interested in what's your career journey from kind of like that music side of things as undergraduate, masters and PhD to doing what you do now in terms of research in knowledge mobilisation. And you've also been a clarinet teacher as well. So
yes.
Tell us something about that kind of long and winding road.
Yeah, sure. If I had £1 for every time somebody had asked me, well, how did you get from music to knowledge mobilisation? I'd probably be quite rich by now. So yes, I started my academic career in music. I, from a very young age, actually, wanted to be a clarinet teacher. That's what I said I wanted to do. And that's what I set about doing. I did an undergraduate degree and then a master's in music. And then a PhD, because I discovered through my academic career that I really loved finding things out. So I'm incredibly curious, I think, and I love learning. So I definitely class myself as a lifelong learner. And I realised that I wanted to keep finding things out, but also I realised as I got further through my academic career that lots of researchers did research, but it didn't seem to get used. And people just seemed to do stuff and churn stuff out, but it then just sat on library shelves quite often, which was why it's so great that you've actually read and used some of my work. But in those early days when I was doing music, I was struck by the fact that there are some academic aspects of music that actually could be really useful for clarinet teachers like myself and other kinds of teachers teaching people to play musical instruments. And so in my PhD, I set about looking and seeing if we could use a concept and a practice of music analysis, which is basically identifying shapes and patterns in pieces of music, right? So it's not particularly difficult. It's not particularly difficult to grasp, but everybody saw it as a really academic thing that had no practical use. Now, if you're trying to teach people to play instruments and play pieces of music, what's the one thing you need them to know? Well, you need them to recognize the shapes and the patterns in the pieces of music. So that was my early start in how can we take something that seems a really academic concept and make it practical and useful for people in practice. So that was all great. But then as listeners working in the arts and humanities will know, and particularly if you are in the creative industries like music, there's no money in research in that space. And it's really hard to stay in research in the arts and humanities. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep researching. I wanted to keep finding stuff out. So I ended up going into health research because probably as your listeners would also know, there's quite often quite a lot of money and quite a lot of jobs around in health research. And so I just ended up doing some basic research jobs. But then when I moved to the University of Leeds, I met someone by the name of Susan Hamer. And I don't know if you remember Susan from probably quite a while back now, but Susan introduced me to the idea of knowledge brokering and knowledge exchange and knowledge transfer. And I thought, oh, well, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in how we can take academic stuff and make it useful and usable for people. That sounds great. So I just kind of fell into this world and I discovered it was a world that I fitted into and I felt very much part of. And the rest is history, really. I've stayed there. It's a space that I can keep learning, keep being inquisitive. So it suits me really well. But importantly, it's about making a difference with the research that goes on in universities and actually bringing that to people so that it can have practical benefit. That's my real passion.
Yeah, fantastic. It's interesting. I think I interviewed Julie Bailey. Her episode went out this week that we're recording this, and she's a double bass player. But
I did not know that.
yes,
I've known Julie for a while, and I did not know that.
It's fascinating what you learn about people. Yes,
Isn't it?
And in the interview, I was trying to convince her that because Gemma Derrick in her bio mentions that she has a failed musical theatre career. So I was trying to talk her, Julie, into getting a band together with Gemma. So I've now got another potential bandmate.
That would be amazing. Yes,
and
the Knowledge Mobilisation Band.
And I'm glad you mentioned that phrase because I wanted to kind of help listeners who are new to that term to kind of understand what it is, but also understand your current role. You're within a business school and working in the Department of Management. So how does all that fit in? What do we mean by knowledge mobilisation, and where does that fit into your current role in that discipline area?
That's a really good question. So you may have noticed that when I talked about meeting Susan and getting into this space between research and practice, I mentioned the words knowledge brokering, knowledge transfer, knowledge exchange. So there's lots of different words that are put on the end of knowledge. So they're put after knowledge that are essentially about making a difference with research very often. And but knowledge mobilization, it actually originated in Canada, I think. And it's much more about, I see it, I suppose, as being about the process of drawing knowledge from different sources, helping people to make sense of that and to use that. And by knowledge from different sources, I mean research, yes, but also lived experience, expertise, values, all sorts of different things can be thought of as knowledge. And that's the way that I think about knowledge mobilization. It's essentially about bringing people together very often to help them to share and exchange their knowledge from different sources. And the reason that I think about that now, and the reason as well that actually I'm now in a Department of Management in a business school, is that for me, knowledge is more than research. But I quite often found in the health space that knowledge was equated with research, or research was seen as knowledge. And I suppose over the years, my understanding of that has changed. So now I really think about how all forms of knowledge can be brought together in order to help groups of people basically get stuff done and solve tricky problems. So that's the way that I tend to think about it. But in many ways, I don't really mind what the second word is. You can use mobilization, you can use exchange, you can even use transfer if you must, although it does imply quite a directional relationship. But the thing that I think is really important to think about is what we mean by knowledge. So it's that first word. So that's why I think that's really important. But the nice thing about using a term like knowledge mobilization is it's fairly encompassing, and lots of people can relate to that. So it's not just about research, and it's not just about transfer or pushing research or knowledge to various audiences. It's much more relational, it's much more fluid, it's much more human. So that's why I tend to use the term mobilization now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that works really well because, research impact is a contact sport, as some people describe it, isn't it?
And it sounds like
and
a contact
contact
sport, though, doesn't it? Impact.
Yes. Yeah. We're actually, it's what we mean by that is that relational, and that you're absolutely right. We as researchers don't live in the system that that our research might be hoping to change. So we need to rely on that knowledge of how that system intimately works rather than our kind of second or third hand. Even if we've researched it for many years, we don't know it as well as somebody who's just living it.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we better get on to the UK Knowledge Mobilisation Forum. That's a good segue, I hope, into that. And I wonder if you could take us right back to the start of the forum. So my understanding is that it started in 2014. Is that right? And I think all of the forum programs are still on the website, apart from that first one.
Yes, that's right.
So I had a look at the 2015 and 2016 programs, and that was a really stellar list. There were some amazing names on that, including David Phipps, a very well-established Canadian knowledge mobilization expert. So how did that forum come about, and when did you get involved? Give us some of that history.
Sure. Okay, so 2014. What's really terrifying now, of course, is that is 11 years ago. That is really scary. But yeah, so the UK Knowledge Mobilisation Forum was set up in 2014 by someone called Kathy Howe. And Kathy she held a fellowship with the National Institute for Health Research around knowledge mobilisation. She was one of the first knowledge mobilisation fellows in the UK. And Kathy, as part of her fellowship, as many of us who then followed on in these fellowship roles, thought that, I'll go to Canada because that's where they talk about this knowledge mobilisation stuff. And of course, a lot of us also thought, oh, we'll go and talk to David Phipps because he's a big name in this space. So Kathy went over to Canada and went to the Canadian Knowledge Mobilisation Forum. And the Canadian Forum was run by someone called Peter Levesque. Hi, Peter, if you're listening. That was and still is running as the Canadian Knowledge Mobilisation Forum. And Kathy basically thought, well, why haven't we got one of these in the UK? So Kathy set one up, and very much based on the Canadian model, which had got, at that time, it was quite a lot of different streams, really, for people who were starting out in knowledge mobilisation, people who are a bit more aware and had done a bit more work around knowledge mobilisation, and people who are experts. So it was based on quite a, I guess, a seniority or an expertise, space to start with. So that's the reason that people like David Phipps came over to impart their wisdom and expertise to some of those colleagues in the UK who were just starting out. So Kathy ran that during the length of her fellowship for 3 years. And then her fellowship ended. And when you come to the end of a piece of research or a fellowship like that, you've then got to work out what to do. And Kathy actually went back into managerial practice in the NHS. And so keeping the forum going was challenging for her. So I became aware that the forum might not continue, and I began to wonder whether maybe it should still continue. So I asked some friends in the knowledge mobilisation space if they thought that it was a valuable thing to continue, and they said, yes, Vicky. And I said, would you like to help me run it? And they said, no, Vicky. They had very good reasons for doing so, but yes. So that was back in, I think, 2017, 2018, when I had my own UK, when I had my own knowledge mobilisation research fellowship with NIHR. So I took it on and took up the reins as part of that fellowship. And so the first one that I think I led was 2018, and that was in Bristol. And at that point, we shifted, I guess, the focus of the forum a little bit for largely practical reasons, I have to say. So that was the point that I took over and where it originally came from.
Brilliant. Just for potentially international listeners, NIHR?
National Institute for Health Research. It's the major UK health funder for health research.
Brilliant, thank you. So Vicky, thanks for giving us that quick history lesson and that quick tour. But can you give us a sense of what really makes the Knowledge Mobilisation Forum different? What are its values? What are its aims?
Sure. Again, I'm going to say, if I had £1 for every time someone said the UK Forum is just really different to anything else I've been to, again, I'd probably be, well, kind of reasonably rich. The forum really is a space for people to come together who are working in this in-between space between research, practice, and helping to facilitate knowledge mobilisation within organisations. And very often what we find is that people in those kind of roles feel a bit isolated. They're often the only one in an organisation. And so a large part of what we do at the forum, we basically provide a space for people to come together and find friends. We try to go with that vibe. So we try to go for a very informal approach, very friendly, very open and collaborative. We also try to keep things quite homespun, really. And when I first took over the forum, there were good reasons for that, in that actually I started, I took over the forum, and the only thing that I actually took over from Kathy was the password to the website. So, so there was no actual resource to put on a conference or to do any of that. So basically, we started from scratch, really, with nothing there as a resource. So, so what we did was we made a thing of it being quite homespun and quite low key and quite friendly. We asked people to bring their own snacks with them. In fact, we asked people to bring snacks with them and then to exchange snacks with other people and share them. And that is where some of the connections within the committee originally started, with people finding a shared love of, particular Canadian snacks. So that was one of the things that we did that was really important. But also from that, I think it's also really important for us to focus on sustainability. So sustainability is one of the core values of us at the Forum. But I don't mean just environmental sustainability. Yes, that's important, obviously, but we think in terms of the sustainability of relationships, the sustainability of the Forum as a group and as an organisation, financial sustainability. So I think about sustainability in a very broad way. And then in terms of minimising our impact as well, obviously on the environment, that's also really important to us. So our giveaway at the very first forum that I led for all delegates was a packet of seeds. So those are the kinds of values that drive us. And I think also that reflects a lot of the values within the sector of people working in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I missed a lot of those early ones. It always seemed to clash with something, some training I was delivering or something like that. And I used to look at the tweets that were going on and things like that back in the day when it was Twitter,
Yeah.
and actually a nice place to be, and just go, God, I wish I was there. And I love the snack mobilisation forum.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes, and it is, and I've been doing this for quite a while now. So I've been chair of the forum for quite a long time, obviously, but every year is different, and every year I learn so much more from the people coming and the people who are helping to run and organise it and as well. And it's just such a wonderful, uplifting place to be, and such a supportive place to be as well. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think one of the reasons I joined the organising committee a couple of years ago was to try and make sure I kind of knew to keep a dates dates free to help me to get to it. And that group of people, it's a real mix of researchers and practitioners and people who are definitely both. And I think it's that, that's part of the blend that makes the whole forum quite different. So can you introduce some of those people who've been on and maybe left and the current crop?
Sure. Every year, the committee seems to grow. So we have quite a lot of alumni, but also we have a lot of people who have been on the committee for quite a long time as well. And I think that in itself is interesting, because very often with organising committees, people kind of come and just stay for a year or two, and then people move on. But actually, some people have been with me since the very beginning when I took over organising the forum. So the current person who is the longest standing and longest serving member of the committee is Alison Turner. And Alison actually works in the NHS and in knowledge management and knowledge and evidence use. So and she's been with me since the very beginning. I also want to give a mention to Lynn Williams. So Lynn was at Bangor University and an academic there, and she was on the organising committee in that very first year, along with Paul Manners. So some listeners may know Paul from the National Coordinating Centre for Public Engagement. And it was just such a wonderful group of people all pulling together to see how we could make this thing happen with no resources. And there was a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and it was, absolutely wonderful. So Alison's still around. Someone else who came to that very first forum, well, actually, there's a number of people who came to that very first forum. One of those is Christine Providenza. Now, Christine works in Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital in Toronto. And Christine came with her Canadian snacks to that first forum. And Christine formed a lasting friendship with another member of the committee, Susan Smith, who also loved the Canadian snacks. Christine thought there's a real theme here. And Susan's a librarian for Mid Cheshire Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust. So, so here we've got someone who's in a knowledge translation role, someone who's in a library role, someone who's in a kind of a commissioning role. And then we had some academics as well. So academic-wise, Jane Cloak from the University of Liverpool, probably research adjacent in her role there. Peter van der Graaf, who is at Teesside University and has recently left the committee, but was a staunch member for a long time. So those are some of our researchers. And then we've got some consultants as well. So Helene Russell has been with us since the beginning of the forum, pretty much. And she is a consultant in knowledge management in the legal sector. So we have a number of different sectors represented. Health is a heavy focus because of the history of the forum, but people working in all sorts of other spaces as well. And I'm sure I have definitely missed current committee members. Would you like me to name some more of them?
Yeah, go on. Let's ream them off.
Jed Hall, obviously, yourself at the University of Leeds. Kate Maitland. Kate works in knowledge mobilisation and evidence for Marie Curie UK. Alison Turner, who works for the NHS Midlands and Lancashire Commissioning Support Unit. I may have got that wrong.
Because all of those kind of central units change their name quite regularly, don't they, in the NHS?
So that definitely needs checking. And then we have also got, you might have to help me remember now, Laura B, who is part of the university's policy engagement network, and I can't remember what her role is.
I think it's someone along the lines of network manager, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, I think that she is as well. Sarah Jasm, who I can't remember what her role is. You have to ask her. Catherine Rose Stocks Rankin, who works for the Scottish Policy Research Exchange, which is a group that helped to connect researchers and policymakers across Scotland. Yes,
and I've interviewed Catherine Rose with Dave, co-director on the podcast. So I'll put that link in the show notes if you're interested in finding out more about CR.
You will know how marvelous she is then.
Yes. Now you mentioned when we were talking about the aims and the values of the forum, that it is quite different to a traditional style academic conference. So, can you get, this is a difficult question to answer, but can you give a listener who's never been and maybe never looked at the website what may be the kind of, when we do it online, it's across 5 days. When we do it face to face, it's 2 days. But what does a forum look like and feel like as a participant?
That is a really great question. What does the forum look and feel like? So the forum, we run alternate years, 1 year in person and 1 year online. The in-person forum runs over 2 days and is a programme that is packed full of quirky and slightly different content. So we do not have research presentations. We don't really have presentations, actually. We haven't gone as far as banning PowerPoint, but it is strongly discouraged. What we are aiming to do is give people places to connect. So it's about interactivity. So if we have someone who wants to come and bring a game that they have developed to help people explore different worlds of policy making, say, then that is great. We would love to have those kinds of things. If somebody has developed a storybook, a children's storybook, for instance, to share the findings of research, also that is fantastic. So we try to have those kinds of things, and instead of having presentations, we have some slightly more quirky kinds of content. So one of the things that we have is workshops. So people will typically get 45 minutes to an hour to really explore and share some of their work with people. And not to only share that, but also to get feedback and have interactive discussions about their work. So that's really important thing to do. We have posters, but they are not posters as you know it. We run something called interactive posters. And what these are is people have a poster, but they don't present their poster. So they don't stand and talk about their poster. They don't even necessarily stand next to a poster that is displayed. What they do is they're interviewed about their poster by a member of the organising committee or by another delegate. And the questions that they're asked are questions that people have left on post-it notes, or if we're online, digitally, on their posters. So it's much more responsive to what people want to know and what people are interested in finding out. Because otherwise it's just kind of a presentation. And as I said, that's we try to discourage that as much as possible, because we're about conversations, not about kind of the one-way sharing of knowledge. But the things that I think everyone loves the most, certainly everyone on the committee loves these the most, are the knowledge fairs. Now, knowledge fairs are 15-minute, quick fire session where people have an opportunity to share their knowledge mobilisation wares with other delegates. So they might bring a website, they might bring a game, they might bring a picture, they might ask people to do something with them. All kinds of different things have happened in that space. And you could go from finding yourself having a really deep, in-depth discussion about the nature of knowledge and the role of emotions as a form of knowledge. Or you could be playing a roll the dice game to work out where to engage with policymakers. So you could be doing anything in that time. But you get 15 minutes and then everyone moves around. So the presenters, the stall holders, have to basically do it again for a new group of people. And then they do it again for another new group of people. So everyone moves around. It's organised chaos. It works in person, but it also works online brilliantly. We just pluck people out of a Zoom room and put them into a next room, and you feel really wicked doing that behind the scenes, but it is so much fun, and it brings such a huge amount of energy and fun to the forum. So that's one of the sessions that we love the very most. And then we do have keynote speakers as well. So we typically have one research keynote speaker and one practice keynote speaker. But again, there we ask people not to just present to people, but to think about what they'd like to learn from delegates as well, and how they can have a conversation to help them to progress their own work, rather than just imparting their wisdom and experience to delegates. So it's much more of a two-way thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I must admit, when I was first on the organising committee, I was kind of like, how does that work? I was like, oh, God.
But it
Feeling
kind of
slightly nervous.
does.
Yeah.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I particularly loved one of the first knowledge fairs I was put into as a participant, which was Bring Your Knowledge Mobilisation Song, which was
Yes.
That was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, especially for somebody who's not musical.
People are so creative as well, and the work they do is so creative. And I think the
Mm,
thing that I've loved about the forum is that we provide a space for people to share that kind of stuff
mm,
that actually wouldn't usually have space, wouldn't fit into a more academic style conference
mm,
or a more practitioner focused conference either, to be honest.
mm,
So I think that we do provide that unique space for people who are doing things that are a bit unusual, a bit different,
mm.
to help them come somewhere that they can get energized and excited about other people's work, but also about their own work as well.
Yeah. Now, this coming year, so 2026, is going to be your last as the chair of the forum. Yeah,
Yes,
I can see
don't
you looking like
remind me.
you're looking like you might be regretting that decision now.
Yeah.
Um, so what are your hopes for the future? And and introduce us to who's taking up the reins.
Yeah, I am regretting it a little bit, but I've been chairing for quite a long time, and it feels like it's time for me to hand the reins over to someone else. Um, and I think what I'm hoping is that the forum continues to be a place that provides a safe space for people working between research, knowledge, policy, practice, between those worlds and within those worlds. A safe space to come to reflect on their work, to share innovative practice, to develop thinking, and to have fun.
Mm,
That's what I really hope that it continues to be. Now, what that looks like, that isn't for me to say.
mm,
And the whole point with the forum is that I have a large organising committee and everyone plays a role and everyone shapes the forum to be what it is. So it's not my forum. I don't shape the direction. I have a spreadsheet that helps things sort of run to time most of the time. But actually, it's much more about enabling people to be involved and enabling people to find leadership roles that suit them. So that's what I hope it continues to be. And I know that there are a number of people staying on the committee, so I'm
mm.
absolutely sure that that's what it will continue to be. But we do have some new members joining the committee well, at the moment. And one of those people is the marvellous Catherine Rose Stocks Rankin, CR, as she's known to her friends. I've known CR for a long time. We originally were knocking about in the space of knowledge brokering together in maybe 2014,
Mm.
2015. So 10 years going back. And CR is a wonderful, facilitating, open, collaborative, fun person. So a marvelous person to join the committee, but
Mm.
also I think, a marvelous person to be leading that moving forward. And I would say as well that no one twisted her arm. She put herself forward to join the committee
Mm.
and to step up as chair. So we're co-chairing together this year before taking over into 2027 and beyond.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Not to say I'm looking forward to you going. That's not what I'm saying. Um, but yeah, I think Ciara is fantastic. She just has that. Everybody feels safe and welcome
Yes.
whenever she speaks or interacts, and I think that's just that will be a lovely vibe
Yes.
that she just naturally exudes,
Yes. And I
so
think that word vibe is something that's really important for the
mm,
forum. It's so I can describe what it does, what it looks like, the kinds of presentations, and people can look on the website and whatever. But it's really hard to get that vibe across and to explain what that is. In some ways, you've just got to be there and feel it.
yeah,
But it is, I think, that vibe of safety and openness and warmth
yeah,
that so many of us in this space operate in anyway, and so much of us working in this kind of a space give. So it's nice to have a space that you can receive that as well for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't charge a lot for it. So do we? So,
We don't
it's not
know.
a high risk.
No, that is one of the things about the sustainability. It's about financial sustainability, not only for the forum itself, but also for the people who come. And no one's
Absolutely.
got any money, let's face it.
Yeah.
So we do keep the fees really low for the online version, which runs across 5 days, 2 hours each day. I think last year we charged £50, or not even as
Something
much as
like
that.
that.
I
Yeah.
can't remember, but it wasn't very much. And we have previously run that for much less as well. Typically, the fee for the in-person has been around £150 for the 2 days. Obviously, that doesn't include accommodation or travel or anything, but it is all of the content and catering as well. So, and we always make sure we have plenty of cake.
Yes, absolutely. Vicky, thanks for telling us all about the forum. Now, in terms of this kind of final question, I've started asking this of all my guests because it's really, through all these conversations and actually, your work and the literature around it's relational. Those are the kind of key, most important pathways, if we use that phrase, to impact, to change, to improve lives. So, in terms of kind of the people, who is it that have made knowledge mobilization and your research in that space? The joy, the fun. Who do you look to? Who do you kind of go, I'm really glad they're around. They really are my people.
Wow, that is a big question. That's a really big question. Um, I'm gonna, I know that no one can name just one person, so I'm not going to try either. But the first name that springs to mind is Professor Hugh Davies. So Hugh, some listeners may know his work with Professor Sandra Nutley as well. Both of them are amazing, amazing people. Not only incredibly talented researchers, the first one's really starting to talk about what evidence use actually looked like and what that meant, and it not just being somebody picking something off a shelf and using it. So their work has been incredibly influential on me and my career. And I was lucky enough to move to the University of St Andrews when Hugh and Sandra were both still working in the department. Both have now, unfortunately for me, but very fortunately for them, retired and are having a whale of a time doing fun things with life. But they were definitely incredibly influential and provided a safe space for me to talk about my research and my aspirations and to start feeling some sense of, I guess, pride in the work that I did and what I could contribute. So they were absolutely amazing and very definitely my people. I've learned a lot from Hugh, particularly about relationships and attitudes to work and things like that, all sorts of things. And finding a good work-life balance, it was incredibly important. So academics, I would say those people. In terms of the practice space and practice people, there are so many fun people, so many fun people. Catherine Rose, CR, is wonderful, and I love spending time with her for her wisdom, for her ability to listen, for her insight as well. So very glad that she's around. And Julie Bailey, huge amount of fun, lots of different ways of thinking in this space. So I would say those are some examples of my kind of people
Yeah.
and the kinds of people that I would hope to emulate in some way as well, in some tiny way, to reflect just how amazing those people are.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'll maybe try and reach out to Hugh and Sandra and see if they...
Oh, you'll be lucky.
I know. Anybody who's retired, I'm thinking if anybody got in touch with me in 3 years' time and said, do you want to come on a podcast and talk about research impact? I go, nope.
Yeah, they'll probably say no. They'll probably say no. I don't even know if he's in the country now. He's usually cycling around Europe.
Yeah, but at least I've interviewed CR and Julie, so that's
brilliant.
That's a good one. Vicky, it's always wonderful to catch up with you. As I said in the intro, I've been a fan since I designed those first research impact workshops back in kind of 2011, 2012. So thank you for agreeing to appear on the podcast and talking about the brilliant UK Knowledge Mobilisation Forum and those who are involved in it. And I'll leave you to say goodbye to our listeners and give them how do they find out about the forum?
Sure. How do you find out about the forum? The best way is our website. So our website can be found at Knowledge Mobilisation with an S .net. So that is knowledgemobilisation.net is our website address. We've also got a page on LinkedIn. You can find us on there, posting intermittently, and that you can also email us, and our email address is on our website. Contact us and ask to be added to our mailing list, and then you will find out about when the next forum is happening, when we open our call for content, and all of the exciting things that are going to be happening at the 2026 forum and beyond. So drop us an email.
Thanks for listening to the Research Culture Uncovered podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss out on our brand new episodes. And if you're enjoying the discussions, give us some love by dropping a 5-star rating and written review, as it helps other research culturists find us. And please share with a friend and show them how to subscribe. Thanks for listening, and here's to you and your research culture.